Saving, investment, and financial system. In this lecture, we will analyze a closed economy for simplicity. The main content of this lecture include firstly, the definition for saving and investment and the financial system in the economy, and second, we will introduce the market for loanable funds to analyze the saving and investment activity in the economy, and part 3, suggest the policies of encouraging saving and investment to promote economic growth. So now, when we define saving and investment, the most easy way is to recall the macroeconomic circular flow that we mentioned in lecture 2 about GDP. In this circular flow, we have that for the simple economy, saving and investment always equal. And if we add two more agents, the government and the foreign sector, so we will have more identity for the economy. But if you want to define what is saving and what is investment, so now we can see the definition easily. Saving comes from household. It means that one part of disposable income will be distributed to consumption and the other part is for saving. So now we go to the definition for saving. Saving is the rest of disposable income that is not consumed. So saving equal disposable income means income after tax minus consumption. What about investment? Investment is the expenditure by firms on capital goods, and this expenditure go to the market for final goods and services. So now we defined investment is the purchase of equipment and structure in the production of goods and services. The traditional definition for investment is machinery, equipment, and structure. And when we expand the definition for investment, we will have two more parts. The second part of investment is inventory, and the third part is new houses. The new houses bought by household. So now, from this circular flow for a simple economy, we say that saving and investment always equal. So if in the closed economy with the government, do we have the same conclusion that saving equal investment? To see the relation between saving and investment, let's look at the identity for the closed economy. From GDP approaches, we see that GDP by expenditure means total expenditure include excise tax, but GDP by income exclude excise tax. So the relation between the two value of GDP is the excise tax. Now we replace GDP by expenditure is the three components: consumption, investment, and government purchase. And income is distributed into three parts. The first part of income is to pay tax. This is direct tax. The rest of income after tax is disposable income distributed into consumption and saving. So now we remove consumption from the two sides of equation, and we have saving minus investment plus tax. T here is the sum of two types of tax minus government purchase. B is the saving by household. We say this is private saving, SB. T minus G is the rest of tax after we have government expenditure. So it is called government saving or public saving. The two types of saving, public saving and private saving, is summed and called national saving. So now for the closed economy, we will have a similar conclusion for saving equal investment, but not private saving. This is national saving. For the closed economy, national saving always equal investment. This relation can be explained more details in the next two slides. You will see that if there is something change to one of the saving, the government saving may be positive or negative. It's equivalent to the budget deficit or budget surplus. So it will lead to the change in the relation between private saving and investment. For example, in the first case, there is government but the government deficit. So government saving is negative. And in this identity, if government saving is negative, it means that private saving higher than investment. And one part of the amount of money saving will be lent to the government before lent to the firm. Another case is the opposite case. There is surplus of government budget. Government saving is positive. So from this identity, we can have similar conclusion that if government saving is positive, so private saving is lower than investment. And it also means that domestic investment can borrow funds from two sources, from government and from household. So it means that from this identity, we can have many conclusions. It depends on different cases in the economy. So now is the exercise for practice. Another way to explain the relations between saving and investment is to look at the financial system. When we say that saving is the rest of income after consumption, so this amount of money will go to the financial system, and investment borrow money from the financial system to spend on production line, to buy more machine, to buy more houses, or to hold more inventory. So now we will explain about the financial system. The financial system includes group of institutions and markets to connect saving and investment. And when we connect saving and investment, there may be two channels. Saving and investment may be connected indirectly through the intermediaries. This is called financial intermediaries. Or another channel is to connect saving and investment directly in the market for stock and bonds. So, the financial intermediaries may include commercial banks, financial funds, financial company, insurance company, or in US, we still have mutual funds. These financial intermediaries attract money from saving and use this money to lend to investment. So when you save, you will lend your money to the intermediary and you don't need to know who will use your money. Similarly, from the firm, when firm borrow money from the intermediary, they don't need to know that the origin of the money come from what household. So the financial intermediary is very important to connect saving and investment, and it has many advantages to help saving and investment to be in time and also to have enough money for the project. Another way to connect saving and investment is the direct channel. In the direct channel, household lend the money directly to firm, and firm pay back with the stock and bonds. So it means that when you buy stock or bonds, you will give your money to the firm who issues stock and bonds. And this firm is now the borrower of your money. The difference between stock and bonds can be explained firstly in the bond market and second in the stock markets. The typical price for bond can be explained firstly from the definition for bonds. Bond is a certificate of indebtedness that specifies the obligation of the borrower to the holder of the bond. It will be easy if you look at one example of the bond. This is the government bond. From this example, we can see that the Ministry of Finance is the borrower. And when they borrow money, they will show the objective, the reason for the borrowing. This is the amount of borrowing. We have the maturity, means the time to borrow, and interest rate. This information is fixed during the 5 years, during the maturity. So now from this example, we can go to the main characteristic of bond. The first characteristic of bond is the issuer or the borrower. The government may issue bond. A firm may issue bond or even bank issue bond. So it means that any legal agents may issue bonds because it's just the certificate of indebtedness. And when these agents want to borrow money, they may issue the bond to borrow money. And after a certain time, they will pay back the money. There will be face value or nominal value in the bonds, the interest rate. And the interest rate is fixed by the date of maturity and the credit risk of the borrower. If the date of maturity is longer, so interest rate will be higher. If the credit risk is higher, so the interest rate also be higher. So you can see that the more risky bring you the higher interest rate. Some explanation for stock. Stock is different from bonds. Stock represent the ownership in a firm and is therefore a claim to profit that the firm makes. So when you buy stock, you become one of the owner of the firm. So it means that not every legal agent will issue stock. This characteristic is different from the bond. Only joint stock company issue bond. There must be joint stock company, and if the company is not a joint stock company and they still want to issue issue stock, so the first step is that they have to become the joint stock company. This is called equitization or privatization. And the stockholder is the owner of the firm. They will benefit of the profit of the firms by getting the dividend, or they will be invited to the stockholder meeting every year. And because the stock represents ownership, so there's no interest rate and no maturity. The stockholder do not get the interest rate, but they will get the dividend. There's no maturity. As long as you hold the stock, you are the owner of the firm, and there's no ending day. So it means that there's no maturity. So now, there's a quick quiz or small practice for you to practice the difference between stock and bond. Another way to explain the relation between stock and bond, from saving and investment, is to look at the market. So now you may see saving as the supply of fund and investment as the demand for funds. So the interaction in the financial system can be seen as the market for funds. Saving and investment will interact in these markets, follow the supply and demand rules. Firstly, for saving, saving represents the supply of loanable funds. And as we mentioned before, national saving includes two types of saving: private saving and government saving. For private saving, when interest rate change, it also change the motivation for saving. But for government saving, this depend on the plan of the government. So it do not depend on interest rate. This is called, the changes in government saving is called fiscal policy. So now you can see that the changes in interest rate will lead to the change in private saving. And if there is a change in government saving, so there will be the shift of supply of fund. The supply curve shift to the right or shift to the left. Okay, so now are the conclusions for the supply of fund. The first important variable is interest rate. And interest rate is endogenous variable, and it will cause the movement along the supply curve. Movement. And if there are other reasons, for example, the fiscal policy lead to the change in government saving, they are exogenous variable, and they will cause to the shift of supply curve to the new position like this. The last determinant for the supply is the slope. The slope or elasticity of supply of funds depends on the elasticity of saving to interest rate. If private saving is more elastic, so it means that respond to the same increase in interest rate, now saving may increase more. So it will lead to the higher change in saving, and the supply curve will be flatter. So we say that the more elastic, the flatter supply curve. The less elastic or inelastic, the steeper supply curve. And there are two extreme cases. Perfectly elastic will make supply curve more and more flatter or even horizontal. And perfectly inelastic will make supply curve steeper and steeper and even vertical. So this is the introduction for supply of fund. And now similarly, we have the explanation for demand for fund. The demand for fund comes from investment, and if the interest rate is higher, so the cost for borrowing money will be higher, and firm will borrow less money and reduce investment. So investment reduced from Q0 to Q1. And we have the investment or the demand for fund is the downward sloping like this. If there is a change in other variable like expectation of firm or investment policy, it will lead investment to the new value, increase or reduce. This is the shift of demand curve. So the conclusions for demand include two types of variable. Interest rate is the endogenous variable, and it will cause the movement along demand curve from this point to this point in the same curve. And if there is expectation of policies, they are exogenous variable, it will cause to the shift of demand curve to the right or to the left. So now we will combine supply and demand in one diagram to see the equilibrium state. At the equilibrium state, saving and investment equal. So the quantity of fund equal to saving and investment. It means that investment now is Q0. When firm investment with the quantity Q0, it means that firm will buy more physical stock or firm will buy more machine. the stock of physical capital increased to Q0, and saving also equal Q0. If firm want to borrow money, there is saving available. So this decision won't be feasible, and it will lead to the increase in the physical capital. Applying this explanation, now we will suggest the policy to encourage saving and investment in the economy. When we encourage private saving, does the investment increase? Or when we encourage private saving, does investment increase? This will be explained by using the diagram. And the last policy is to change the government budget or the fiscal policy. And now we go to the first policy, encourage private saving. If we encourage private saving, so the saving curve or the supply curve will increase and shift to the right. Shift to the right. At the new equilibrium, interest rate will reduce from R0 to R1. The lower interest rate makes private saving reduce. But the lower interest rate will help firms to borrow more, because now they have to pay less when they borrow money. So investment increase. The movement along demand curve and supply curve. And finally, we have the new equilibrium. At the new equilibrium, saving and investment equal at Q1. So it means that initially, saving and investment is Q0, and now saving and investment increased to Q1. And we may conclude that the policy emphasis on private saving will also increase investment. For the second policy, we have the policy encourage on private investment, and it will shift the demand curve to the right. And finally, now we look at the equilibrium. At the new equilibrium, saving and investment equal Q1, higher than initial level. So we have the similar conclusion that the policy emphasis on investment also increase saving. The last policy is the fiscal policy. The fiscal policy means we change tax or government spending, and it will lead to the change in government budget, T minus G. So if we increase the government budget by increased tax or reduce government, so we will shift the supply curve or government saving to the right, and the result is similar to the first policy when we encourage saving. The new equilibrium will give you the quantity saving and investment equal to Q1, higher than initial level. There is more explanation for the exercise from the slide, so please read carefully the more explanation from slide when you do the exercise. And now is the end for lecture 4, saving and investment.